While we constantly look at the health of our kids and we constantly keep asking one another, what are the best foods to build my child's immunity? What are the best superfoods that my child can eat every single day? And we keep talking about nutrition for your kids. We got to make one point that the nutrition for your children is absolutely useless if they don't have the right amount of activity. When you have the right amount of activity, you have the right amount of blood circulation. Blood has many functions, but two of the main functions are carrying oxygen and the nutrients from the food that you eat to trillions of cells in the human body. So you could be feeding your kid all the healthy food in the world, but if he doesn't have or she doesn't have the right circulation, which is brought about by activity and exercise, it's quite useless. Well, activity for your child is extremely important, and in today's world where people are getting more and more sedentary, children are getting more and more sedentary, we have drivers, we have everything which is, things that have made life so comfortable that so much of activity is not even required anymore. I mean, you see schools where there are steps and there are elevators, and right from the parents and children, they're all taking the elevators instead of taking like one flight of steps. So there are certain lifestyle changes that we can start making for our kids right now. There's no point in waiting for them to become teenagers or young adults, where they miss out on a life of activity. Activity is everything. Look at a normal child. A young child, you put them on the floor, they automatically get active. They start moving around, they start climbing, they start doing different things until we spoil them or we give them a taste of too much of exposure to gadgets and TV. And then that's obviously going to take their interest, away from doing activities or, being active and doing other things, because you know how it is when there's a gadget like a phone or an iPad or TV. The child's mind is constantly moving from one interesting thing to another. So you have that constant stimulation of dopamine, and that's how the brain gets attracted to all these gadgets. And that's why it is so difficult to wean your children off iPads and all the gadgets. It's designed that way. It's designed. It's got most of the adults addicted. Let's face it. How many of you go through Facebook scrolling mindlessly, but your brain is constantly getting stimulated. It's looking out for more and more interesting stuff. And you're doing this mindlessly. It's all dopamine stimulation. So imagine what's happening to your children when you give them iPad time, gadget time, and excessive TV time. The whole purpose of a child being active is, number one, to understand that their muscles and their body growth happens with activity, period. Their bones get stronger, not with all the vitamin D that you're feeding them and the calcium and all of that stuff. It helps. But activity, the same way an elderly person like a man or a woman, we encourage them to walk because their bones get stronger. But for the longest time, we've been made to believe that, take your calcium, drink your milk, and your bones get stronger. The simple example is the US and India are the highest consumers of calcium, vitamin D, and milk products. And the US and India have the highest amount of osteoporosis. It just doesn't make sense. When you're trying to build muscle, when you're trying to build strong bones, you need activity. Weight-bearing exercises like jumping, moving, activity, cycling, all of that makes your bones stronger, not sitting and taking calcium all day and not moving. When it comes to a child's immunity, parents are constantly saying, what are the foods to boost immunity? Food plays a small role, a very, very important role, but your activity plays a major role when it comes to boosting your child's immunity. So they can be eating all the healthy food, all the food that you bring down from London and the US and superfoods and all of that stuff. But if they don't have the right amount of activity, the nutrition is practically useless. A healthy weight. Children who have the right amount of activity in their life will attain a healthy weight automatically. Today, parents want to give their children outside food, restaurant food, junk food, and at least if you're doing that, can you make sure that they have the right amount of activity to add some balance to the lifestyle that you're choosing for them? Activity also goes a long way in developing your child's confidence and self-esteem, something that is very, very low in most adults today and most children, self-esteem. Look around you. Most people choose their behaviors based on their low self-esteem. Now, it's not a bad thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you have low self-esteem. When you introspect and you look into your own life, you'll find that you have low self-esteem for many things. I do too. I'm sure you will. Everyone has low self-esteem for different things, and that happens over the years of living, through your childhood, through your teenage years, your exposure, when you work. Our self-esteem gets chipped off a little bit by a little bit if we're not completely aware. And the same things happen with your children in today's world, especially with the amount of peer pressure, the disparity in schools when it comes to very rich people, middle class, and all of that stuff. You know what I'm talking about. There is unconscious peer pressure on our children today. But the more you involve them in activity, because activity has everything to do with their hormones, their endorphins, which is the feel-good factor, and then there's competition, there's playing in groups, which automatically develops their self-esteem and confidence. Most children choose to eat badly and drink the wrong drinks and eat the wrong foods, or they grow up to experiment with cigarettes and drugs and alcohol, usually because of low self-esteem, because they believe, oh, that's the cool way to live. Okay, and so then you fill that void of self-esteem by being someone you're not and identifying what is equated as being cool, which in today's world is drinking excessively in pubs, doing drugs, over-socializing, spending insane amounts of money on things which you don't even require. These are all coping mechanisms for low self-esteem. So we want to make sure that activity also has a great role when it comes to managing your child's confidence levels, self-esteem, and yours as well. Brain power, the more active you are, the sharper your brain is. And you have to understand that. The moment you finish a good workout, why do you feel so pumped up, so motivated, so fresh in your brain? Because it gets rid of all the brain fog, and children need that all the more today. So what are the best ways of getting your child to be active? Number one, lead by example. If your parents see you, if your children see that you have a sedentary lifestyle, that's exactly how they're going to be. So if you start, engaging yourself in some amount of activity, okay, it just doesn't have to be your gym time where your children don't see you doing it. A little bit of activity at home, decide to walk a little more. On the weekends, go out for walks, cycle together. There are so many things that you got to do. But your children will never listen to your advice, like I always say. They will only do what they see you doing. So you can't sit over there and tell them to get active and to be active if you're going to be sedentary yourself. Activities at home, they can dance, they can do fun things that you can do as a family that creates bonding, whether it's dancing, it's a little bit of Zumba, it's just doing some crazy fun activities together that involves you to move is great activity for the child. Things like scootering, cycling, things that you can do together rather than just telling them go for a class, do this, play tennis. That's also great, but also involve them in fun activities that also increases bonding, confidence, and lower self-esteem. Giving them errands to run is also extremely important. You can back this up with a little bit of pocket money, so you also teach them the value of earning their money. Even if you have all the money in the world, it is still a great skill to teach children the value of money by making them earn it. So give them activities in the house, small errands that they can run around in the house, like, cleaning up stuff. Even if you have 100 servants living at home, there's no shame in getting your child to learn how to clean or do activities around the house. But get them to move, get them to be active. Okay, and you can tie it in through different ways like this. And groups are always great. So, whenever you have parties, I think the whole birthday party scene in India is completely flawed. It revolves around a little bit of music and just eating. Start doing more Zumba parties, yoga parties where children can really engage themselves in a lot of activity. Because in group events, most children tend to participate and they get more and more active. Something that works really well with children and getting them active are challenges. Children love challenges and they love to be involved in negotiation. But try telling your child, try putting down a rule without the ability to negotiate, and you'll find that they rebel against what you say. So challenges as simple like, I bet you can't do 10 burpees, and your child will do 10 burpees. I don't think you can do 15 squats, and your child will do 15 squats. Keep putting challenges in them. Okay, these little challenges get them to do a little bit of activity. Your child wants to watch TV, say that's fine. Okay, give me 15 squats before your TV program. After half an hour, pause, let them do 15 jumping jacks. Just little things for them to notice, to understand that we don't want you sitting in one place for too long. So I'm not against TV, I'm not against your video games, but this is what you're going to have to do to earn it. Children work well with negotiation. They want to have junk food on the weekend, they want to do something, negotiate with them. Tell them that, okay, if you do these activities Monday to Friday, we can take you out on the weekend, you can eat, you can have whatever you want in moderation and all of that stuff. So, you get all these fitness bands which count steps. Get one on your child's hand according to their age and have a family goal of steps. Say like as a family, each of us have to get X amount of steps if we want to enjoy our weekend and eat outside and stuff like that. It works brilliantly as a family. It creates bonding, it creates responsibility, and it makes one take personal responsibility for their own goals. So everyone should get one of those bands, and you make a family goal of the number of steps that you want to get. So if your kid didn't achieve the target, that's how he learns. He didn't achieve the target, so he doesn't get his treat. And that's how they learn responsibility. But if he doesn't get his target and you still take him out, you're the parent responsible for spoiling your child. for basically not teaching them discipline and sending them a message that they can have whatever they want and it's okay if they don't keep up to commitment. And that's exactly what's happening in the world today. Children think they can get anything and everything without having to work for it or without having some level of a commitment. So this is how you build discipline as well, because we know the root cause of most people failing to achieve their health goal is discipline, period. It is discipline. So look at challenges as well. Now, besides just looking at ways of getting your children active, look at the things that are robbing your child of activity. Like I spoke about, gadgets, TV time. These things rob your children of activity. They get so addicted to it that they lose interest in activity, because their activity then seems boring to them, because there's something which is working on their dopamine levels like every second. That's, everything that they do, their video games. So I'm not saying I'm against video games and Xboxes and all of that stuff, but it's got to be so limited that it doesn't destroy your child's health. Sugar, the more sugar you give your child, the more lethargic they're going to be. And you have to understand, when it comes to ADHD in children today, hyperactivity in children, the more active they are, the better chances you have of controlling this condition in them. Sedentary children are usually very, very hyperactive. Very, very hyperactive, because their brains work that way, although their bodies may be extremely sedentary. So we have to understand that we got to put these things together for our children. There's no point spending so much of money on fancy educations if your child's health is getting destroyed by the lifestyles that we choose for them. And at the end of the day, exercise and activity makes anyone feel good. And what we need more of in the world today is the feel-good factor. We need to learn how to feel good about the things we do. TV, iPads, games, sugar, all these things are making us feel good. They're superficial, they're material, and the feeling is temporary. And then we need more and more and more of all these superficial things to make us feel good. But we have to get those feel-good factors from within us. Like endorphins after you do a run, endorphins after you play a game, you feel so happy, you feel so motivated. That's a true good feeling. The feel-good factor that comes from when someone loves you, your child knows they're secure, they're getting attention from you, you are doing things together as a family. All of these are real feel-good factors that contribute to their immunity, their hormonal balance, their growth, and their security. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.